Class 9, open at page 3 of your life science book and let us study origin of life on earth. Some concepts about origin of life are there because it is not possible for the scientists to know it definitely without doubt how life had originated in the planet, but some concepts are there and the new information are added every day to have a relook into the concept. However, now let us start. Scientists estimated that our earth was formed about 4.6 billion years ago. 460 কোটি বছর আগে our earth was formed, it originated. Perhaps first appearance of life took about 1 billion years ago after the origin of the earth. However, when and how the life has originated is not clearly known to us. Several theories have been put forward about the origin of life on this earth. Most of them have been rejected, except the modern concepts as proposed by A.I. Oparin in 1920 and Sir J.B.S. Halden in 1930. A.I. Oparin was a Russian scientist and English scientist Sir J.B.S. Halden, who in his later part of life came to India and spent the rest of his life here. However, their concepts on origin of life have been accepted by all. Both the scientists were proposers of chemical evolution of life. That means life came into being, came into existence through a process of chemical reactions that is called chemical evolution of life. Their concepts are supported by experimental evidence performed by Stanley Miller and Harold Urey in 1953. Modern views as stated by Oparin and Halden regarding the origin of life include chemical evolution and biological evolution. You know, our solar system is a complex formed by sun and all the celestial bodies orbiting around it, that is planets. They are moons, asteroids and comets. The space in between the celestial bodies is called interstellar space. It is almost particleless and intensely cold. Solar system is believed to have originated from a nebula or cold cosmic cloud of dust and gas. The solar nebula condensed, began to spin with central part forming the sun, while the peripheral flattened disk broke into a number of smaller clouds that condensed into planets, their satellites, asteroids, etc. However, the sun lies in the center of the solar system on the average distance of 1.5 into 10 to the power 8 kilometers from the earth. And the sun also spins over its axis. It is also revolving in the galaxy at a speed of 7,92,000 km per hour, completing a revolution per 237 million years. And orbiting around the sun are 8 planets, and Earth is the third planet. তোমরা পরপর নামগুলো মুখস্থ করে থাকবে হয়তো: বুধ, শুক্র, পৃথিবী। Mercury, Venus, and Earth. So the Earth is the third planet of the solar system, which lies at an average distance of 148.7 million kilometers from the Sun. The planet is nearly spherical with slight bulge at the equator. You know about the shape of the Earth, and there is slight flattening at the poles. It is covered by a life-supporting gaseous envelope called atmosphere, and presently life is known to exist only on Earth. Nowhere in the universe life is known to exist except in the Earth. Here in the Earth, water occupies 70% of the surface of the Earth, and it is divisible into 3 parts, that is the earth crust, the mantle, and the core. Regarding origin of life, I will tell you some more things which are not found in your textbook, so that it becomes easy for you to understand the whole matter completely. The oldest terrestrial rock is igneous in nature. আগ্নেয় শিলা, প্রথম যে শিলার পরিচয় আমরা পাই পৃথিবীর বুকে। And it is believed that origin of life or biopoiesis, poiesis, P-O-I-E-S-I-S, means making. Bios means life. Biopoiesis means origin of life. It occurred about 4,000 to 4,200 million years ago. Presently, life is known only on Earth, though certain other planets and their moons show possibility of life. Some meteors have also been found to contain organic compounds, indicating their formation elsewhere in the solar system. And there are so many theories regarding the origin of life, which are of less importance today. And some say that the theory is called theory of eternity. Some say that different living beings, such as plants and animals, etc., all such living beings existed in the earth as such from the beginning of its creation and would continue to exist till eternity. Preyer was a proponent of this view. Preyer in 1880. Then theory of panspermia is there, that is the extraterrestrial origin of life. Some meteorites enter into the atmosphere of the earth, and it enters in such a speed that there is a high rate of friction with the atmosphere of the earth, and that creates huge heat, and the meteorite is burnt into ashes, sometimes not completely, and fall on the surface of the earth. some meteorites have been found here and there in the Earth's surface, and scientists have uh, did experiments. Scientists have made experiments and found some organic compounds on the meteorites, and they think that primitive life or panspermia came to Earth from some other planet in the form of microbes or spores through the meteorites. এই যে বক্তব্যটা, এটা একবারে উড়িয়ে দেওয়ার মতো নয় যে উল্কাপাত হয় পৃথিবীতে। উল্কা অত্যন্ত জোরে যখন পৃথিবীর বায়ুমণ্ডলে প্রবেশ করে, একটা ঘর্ষণ হয় পৃথিবীর বায়ুমণ্ডলের সঙ্গে, তার ফলে একটা হিট প্রোডাকশান হয়, এবং সেই হিটের জন্য উল্কাপিণ্ডটা জ্বলে ওঠে। তোমরা এই আকাশে অমাবস্যার রাতে আর কি এইটা ভালো লক্ষ্য করতে পারবে যে আকাশের এখানে ওখানে মনে হচ্ছে সেই বাজি পোড়ানোর মতন কিছু একটা হঠাৎ জ্বলে উঠে আবার নিভে গেল। এগুলো অ্যাকচুয়ালি উল্কাপাত হচ্ছে, এবং সেই উল্কা ওইভাবে পুড়ে ছাই হয়ে যাচ্ছে। কিন্তু সব উল্কা যে একবারে পুড়ে ছাই হয় তা নয়। পার্টস হচ্ছে অফ দি মেটিওরাইট মে রিমেন ইনট্যাক্ট, আনবার্নড। সেই অবস্থায় পৃথিবীর বুকে পড়ল, এবং সেখানে অনেক সময় খুব বড় উল্কা হলে অনেক সময় ক্রেটার সৃষ্টি হয়, বড় গর্তের সৃষ্টি হয়। তো যাই হোক, সেই যে উল্কা যা পুরোপুরি ছাই হলো না, কিন্তু পৃথিবীর বুকে পড়ে গেল, এবং তারপর বিজ্ঞানীরা তার সন্ধান পেলেন। তোমরা খবরের কাগজে মাঝে মধ্যেই এই ধরনের খবর পেয়ে থাকবে। তখন বিজ্ঞানীরা সেখানে গেলেন, এক্সপেরিমেন্টস করলেন, কেমিক্যাল অ্যানালাইসিস করলেন, এবং অর্গানিক কম্পাউন্ডস সেখানে পাওয়া যাচ্ছে লক্ষ্য করলেন। তো বিজ্ঞানীরা মনে করেন যে এই যে উল্কাগুলো, এর মধ্যে মাইক্রোবস কোনো কালে ছিল। এই ধরনের বড় উল্কার মধ্যে মাইক্রোবস অথবা কোনো স্পোর্স, এবং সেগুলো পৃথিবীর বায়ুমণ্ডলে ঢুকে পড়েছে, দিয়ে এখানে এসে পৃথিবীতে এসে তারা একটা ইভলিউশন সম্ভব হয়, এমন একটা বেঁচে থাকা এবং ইভলিউশন সম্ভব হয় এমন একটা পরিবেশ পেয়েছে। তার ফলে সেই সমস্ত মাইক্রোবসগুলো চেঞ্জ হয়ে আজকের এই যত ধরনের উদ্ভিদ, প্রাণী, অন্যান্য জীব সৃষ্টি হয়েছে। এটাকে বলা হয় থিওরি অফ প্যানস্পারমিয়া। According to this theory, this is also called extraterrestrial origin of life. Extraterrestrial means হচ্ছে you know that there is search for extraterrestrial life throughout the world, in the universe, and different countries are sending telescopes and other probing things into the beyond the earth, into the moon, into the Mars, etc. And one such spacecraft even reached in the atmosphere of the sun. I was getting the news a few days before, and the activity of such probes is to find out the atmosphere, the condition in the universe, and also to search for extraterrestrial life, if there is any water, if there is any presence of life. It will be reported from that huge distance to the stations in earth space where informations are received, and we will analyze them and come to conclusions if life are existing in such environments. However, the presence of extraterrestrial origin, extraterrestrial life is a possibility. And primitive life or panspermia came to Earth from some other planet in the form of microbes or spores. This is a theory of Arrhenius in 1908. Meteorites have been reported to contain organic substances. Murray, Murchison, these scientists have reported, and a number of amino acids have been found in an asteroid, in a meteorite that fell on the soil of Australia. And in Alaska, another meteorite fell, and Hoover in 2011 has found remains of bacteria in this meteorite that is lying in Alaska, Siberia and Antarctica. However, it is very difficult to believe that life came from some other planet because of long distance, lethal radiations in interstellar space, very high temperature in space and outer part of atmosphere, absence of life on nearby planets. Or the theory can explain presence of life but cannot explain origin of life. The presence of microbes of spores in the meteorites is an explanation of presence of life. This is no explanation regarding the origin of life. And the theory of spontaneous generation, that is theory of abiogenesis, is there. The theory believes that under certain conditions, non-living substances give rise to living beings spontaneously. This theory also cannot be ruled out. However, Oparin, I was talking about AI Oparin, who spoke about the chemical evolution of life, that is called theory of chemical evolution of life. It was proposed by Russian scientist Alexander Ivanovich Oparin in 1924 and British turned Indian scientist J.B.S. Halden in 1928. Oparin expounded his theory in his book, The Origin of Life on the Earth. Prior to him, Darwin had expressed similar view about the origin of life in a letter to botanist Hooker. Some important points are to be mentioned, that for origin of life, we have to know about the early atmosphere of the earth. When the surface of the earth was semi-molten, it got enveloped by an atmosphere of lighter elements that still existed in the atomic stage, that is hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen. Some of these had the tendency to escape into space as the force of gravity was not high. Early Earth had therefore only two components, lithosphere and atmosphere. Hydrosphere did not develop till the temperature came down to less than 100 degrees Celsius. Then came the early molecules, elements present on the surface of Earth as well as in the early atmosphere, combined to produce simple and compound molecules. Metals combined to form metal nitrides and metal carbides, while atmospheric elements produced molecules of hydrogen, nitrogen, water, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, ammonia, methane. The most important thing is methane, and another is water. Free oxygen was absent. There was no free oxygen uh, present in the atmosphere of the earth at that time. The atmosphere produced around the early hot earth due to reaction of free atoms, and such atmosphere is called primary atmosphere. It was reducing in nature due to absence of oxygen. It is also evident from the presence of reduced materials, that is iron, in early rocks, while the recent rocks possesses oxidized form of metals, that is pyrites. And the molecules remained in the atmosphere till the temperature fell below 100 degrees Celsius. Below 100 degrees Celsius, water vapors condensed to form hot liquid water. And the hot liquid water fell down on surface of earth but evaporated instantly. It again became liquid to fall down again. This process of rain, heat, and thunder continued for thousands of years. Volcanoes continued to emit lava and gases. Ultimately, large oceans, lakes, rivers came into being. These were created. Water bodies came to have good quantity of salts brought down by rain from early atmosphere. Volcanoes, erosion of rocks, washing of bottoms and shorelines. This produced an early form of hot dilute soup of Halden. The water found in the water bodies such as uh, rivers, lakes, oceans, etc., that was hot at that time because the temperature of the earth was very high during that time, and it contained various salts of chlorides and phosphates, etc. So Sir Halden named it hot dilute soup, SOUP. Formation of simple organic compounds. According to Oparin and Halden, there was spontaneous generation of early organic molecules. It occurred when the atmosphere was reducing, যখন বিজারণ ঘটছিল, and devoid of ozone shield. There was no ozone layer above the atmospheric strata. You know, there is ozonosphere present in the there is presence of ozonosphere in the present atmosphere of the earth, but at that time there was no ozone shield. And you also know that ozone prevents the ultraviolet rays of the sun from entering into the earth's surface, and for the presence of this ozone shield, very small amount of UV rays can pass through it. These are filtered. But during that time, there was no ozone shield, and the surface temperature of Earth was more than 60 degrees Celsius. And for ultraviolet radiations, as there was no mechanism of prevention of ultraviolet radiation, so huge ultraviolet radiations was there. And for ultraviolet radiations, cosmic rays, lightning, ঘন ঘন বজ্রপাত, and heat made the atmospheric components to react amongst themselves. এই পরিস্থিতিতে যে অ্যাটমসফিয়ারে যে সমস্ত কম্পোনেন্টগুলো ছিল তারা পরস্পরের মধ্যে বিক্রিয়া ঘটাতো and produce organic compounds like sugars, fatty acids, glycerol, amino acids, pyrimidines. There was little degradation of these organic compounds due to absence of enzymes and free oxygen. There was no enzymes present at that time. There was no free oxygen, so oxidation was not possible. So there was little degradation of these organic substances, organic compounds being created at that time. As a result, a dilute hot soup or broth came into existence. CH4 means methane, CH4 plus CO2 plus H2O together formed sugars, fatty acids, and glycerol. And with these, CH4 plus ammonia plus carbon dioxide plus water, they together form amino acids. CH4 plus NH3 means ammonia plus carbon dioxide plus nitrogen plus hydrogen plus water, they together formed purines and pyrimidines. The important basic requirements for origin of biomolecules were reducing atmosphere. এটা খুব মনে রাখবে যে একটা বিজারণশীল হচ্ছে বায়ুমণ্ডল যার মধ্যে অক্সিজেন ছিল না এবং হাইড্রোজেন ছিল। তোমরা জানো কোনো বস্তুর সঙ্গে অক্সিজেন যুক্ত হলে তাকে অক্সিডেশন বলা হয়, আর হাইড্রোজেন যুক্ত হলে তাকে বলা হয় রিডাকশন। এনার্জি, it also requires energy from solar radiations, lightning, volcanic eruptions, cosmic and other high energy rays, and hot earth, and alternate condensation and evaporation. পৃথিবীর বুকে জলীয় বাষ্প ঘনীভূত হয়ে পৃথিবীতে উত্তপ্ত বৃষ্টিপাত হলো, দিয়ে পৃথিবীর যে ভূপৃষ্ঠ সেটা উত্তপ্ত থাকার জন্য বৃষ্টি হওয়ার সঙ্গে সঙ্গেই আবার ইভাপোরেট করে সেই জলটা বাষ্প হয়ে উঠে গেল, আবার মেঘ ফরমেশনের জন্য উঠে গেল, ফার্দার কনডেন্সড হয়ে আবার বৃষ্টিপাত হলো। এই যে ঘন ঘন ব্যাপারটা ঘটছে, এর ফলে এই প্রতিবার যখন জলটা বাষ্পীভূত হচ্ছে তখন ল্যাটেন্ট হিটটাকে নিয়ে উঠে যাচ্ছে, তারপরে পৃথিবীর বায়ুমণ্ডল এবং পৃথিবী পৃষ্ঠ ক্রমশ ঠান্ডা হতে থাকলো এবং একটা অনুকূল পরিবেশ সৃষ্টি হতে থাকলো জীব সৃষ্টির, এবং সৃষ্টির পরে জীবের টিকে থাকার জন্য। অল্টারনেট কন্ডেনসেশন অ্যান্ড ইভাপোরেশন অ্যান্ড রাইট কেমিক্যালস লাইক কম্পাউন্ডস such as carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and water. Stanley Miller in 1953, he was a graduate student of Harold Urey. He designed an apparatus, একটা যন্ত্র আবিষ্কার করেছিলেন, for simulating conditions prevalent on Earth at the time of abiogenetic evolution of organic substances. মিলারের একটা বিখ্যাত এক্সপেরিমেন্ট আছে, তিনি একটা যন্ত্রের উদ্ভাবন করেছিলেন, সেখানে একটা মোটামুটি যে গবেষণার লব্ধ যে পরিবেশের কথা জানা যায়, জীব সৃষ্টির আদিকালে যেমন পরিবেশ ছিল বলে মনে করা হয়, সেরকম একটা পরিবেশ সেখানে রাখা সম্ভব। দি অ্যাপারেটাস হ্যাড এ স্পার্ক চেম্বার উইথ 2 electrodes providing 75,000 volts of energy for simulation of lightning, a flask for boiling, simulation for evaporation and circulation to a temperature of 800 degrees Celsius, and a condenser for simulation of raining and formation of Holden soup. A control apparatus was also prepared but without electrodes in the spark chamber. Miller used a mixture of methane, ammonia, hydrogen, and water. The mixture was exposed to electric discharges followed by condensation and then boiling. It was continued for 18 days. The experiment was repeated a number of times. The products were extracted and identified through chromatography. Miller was able to identify 15 amino acids. Try to remember that he used a mixture of methane, ammonia, hydrogen, and water, but he got, after repeated experiments, he got 15 amino acids, that is glycine, alanine, aspartic acid, etc., and organic acids such as lactic acid, succinic acid, propionic acid, acetic acid, etc., ribose sugar, and purine adenine. Using different combinations, ultraviolet light, and other sources of energy, Later workers have obtained a number of organic compounds like sugars, nitrogen bases, pigments, and fats. Nitrogen bases, these are formed if the starting combination contained hydrocyanic acid. Occurrence of similar compounds in the meteorites shows that similar processes are also occurring elsewhere in the space. And this way, the organic compounds were formed abiogenetically. Oxides of copper, iron, and saturated hydrides were in the low concentration in hot dilute soup. Evaporation of water from the area and a source of energy made the chemicals to interact, condense, and polymerize. A number of complex organic compounds were formed, such as sugar, fatty acids, glycerols. I have already mentioned phosphoric acid, all these things. All the above reactions occurred without the assistance of enzymes. It was due to specific conditions of the external environment. Fox in 1957 was able to synthesize polypeptides by heating a mixture of amino acids at 160 to 210 degrees Celsius for several hours. He also synthesized ATP, porphyrin, nucleotides, etc., non enzymatically from hydrocyanic acid or HCN and inorganic phosphate, while Orgel, another scientist, he has been able to synthesize small nucleic acids from nucleotides under similar oxygen-free conditions. So these are the process which were experimentally found by different scientists, and these are the proof that life originated chemically, chemical evolution of life. And so the question arises how life came into being, how the chemicals I just mentioned, how such chemicals formed life. Actually, early prebiotic chemical systems having one or more properties of living systems are called protobions. I repeat, protobions. There are three requirements for the prebiotic system to form first living system. You think about it. First is the presence of self-reproducing molecules or replicators. যে জিনিসগুলো তৈরি হবে আদি জীবন সেটা মানে নিজের মতনই অন্য প্রোটোবায়নগুলোকে উৎপাদন করতে পারবে, মানে প্রজননের মতন একটা ব্যাপার ঘটবে। সেলফ রিপ্রোডিউসিং মলিকিউলস রেপ্লিকেট করবে। তারপর মিউটেশনস মিউটেশনস of the replicators and formation of chemicals and supply of energy to the system of replicators. এগুলো সব লাগবে। And organic molecules became concentrated on the seashore or in the crevices of submerged rocks to form sort of sludge. Here proteins formed colloidal hydrophilic complexes. They also got surrounded by envelopes of water molecules due to presence of residual valencies. কোয়ালিস মানে একটার সঙ্গে আরেকটা মিশে যাওয়া produced aggregates like coacervates, microspheres or vesicles, and coacervates were reversible emulsioid structures with chemical aggregates depending upon the composition of the soup. I am giving you a few pictures which will help you understand the process. Oparin took a solution of carbohydrate and a large protein. The solution was shaken. নাড়িয়ে দেওয়া হয়েছিল. It caused separation of coacervates. Coacervates had higher concentration of protein and carbohydrate with small amount of water. The remaining solution had much lower concentration. Operins coacervates could grow and exhibit simple form of metabolism. However, a lipid membrane and reproduction were absent. Then Fox in 1957 obtained microspheres or small spheres, ছোট ছোট পোস্তদানার মতো গোলকের মতন জিনিস, with a primitive membrane. He heated a dry mixture of amino acids at 130 to 180 degrees Celsius. It formed amino acid polymers or proteids, PROTEIDs. The same were poured in cool water along with lipids. Microspheres were separated. Microspheres could grow, constrict, and divide. Microspheres and coacervates could fuse to form protobions or self-replicating early life, that is, metabolic capsules having various types of chemicals like proteins, nucleic acids, carbohydrates, etc., enclosed inside a lipid membrane. These were actually the protocells, the early cells, which evolved into single-celled prokaryotes. This is the view of the scientists regarding the chemical evolution and biological evolution of life, and I have already told you about the chemical evolution, how different chemicals combined and recombined and got reduced to form complex compounds, and how coacervates were formed, and microsphere model has also been discussed, and thus protocells developed. Protocells came into being, and these protocells inside the microsphere, in the presence of enzymes, the nucleotides, might have combined to form nucleic acids, DNA and RNA. Some chances of association of proteins and nucleic acids resulted in the formation of nucleoproteins. The synthesis of nucleic acids and nucleoproteins marked the beginning of life, and genetic material came into existence. It had the power of replication, মানে নিজের কপি তৈরি করা. With the formation of nucleic acids and surface membrane, the microspheres changed into fast living system called the protocells, and the continued selection in protocells with perfection of membrane system resulted in the origin of fast cell. They acted as ancestor to present-day prokaryotes and eukaryotes. They were actually anaerobic, that means there was no oxygen at that time, and from them origin of oxygen happened, and the anaerobes possibly obtained energy by fermentation of some of these organic molecules. They were heterotrophic, dependent on the existing organic molecules for their nutrition, and ultimately there was origin of eukaryotic cells. Aerobic respiration evolved sufficient oxygen in the primitive atmosphere. Prokaryotes gradually modified, adapting in the existing new conditions. They developed true nucleus and other cell organelles. You know, inside a cell there are nuclei and different organelles such as mitochondria, lysosome, etc. Thus, free-living eukaryotes originated in the ancient ocean. These eukaryotes lead to the evolution of protists, plants, fungi, and animals.